Next on Currents News, team coverage of the bishops in Baltimore. They're tackling the best ways to protect minors and young people while eradicating abuse. A deal is being made on rent regulations in New York. Tenant leaders are happy, some landlords are not. The heroes of 9/11 are finally getting help today from Congress after lawmakers were publicly shamed. Plus, depictions of kids in cages popping up on the streets of New York are sparking a lot of reaction. A big day of news starts right now. Good evening, I'm Emily Druby. This is an important day for the U.S. bishops in Baltimore as they are approving a new way to report allegations of wrongdoings. We have team coverage with Currents News' Tim Harfman and national correspondent for the Tablet and Crux, Christopher White, standing by in Baltimore. We begin with the latest on what's happening right now with Tim.
Emily, U.S. bishops spent this morning behind closed doors, meeting privately in small groups to discuss clerical abuse. This afternoon, the bishops took a major step as a conference in protecting minors and young people.
Please vote 1 for yes, 2 for no, or 3 for abstain.
U.S. bishops voting on Wednesday in a big step forward for bishop accountability and protecting young people.
Voting is open. Please vote now.
The major decision on day 2 of the bishops' spring meeting, establishing a third-party reporting system for allegations of abuse and any mishandling of cases by bishops.
We feel very strongly about getting something in place, very rapidly.
Auxiliary Bishop Robert Barron of Los Angeles voted in favor of the reporting system, which would be set up to receive accusations either by phone or email. The majority of bishops, over 180 of them, agreed. Now a committee will create a detailed proposal on how the system would work and present it to the bishops at their next meeting in November. Holding bishops accountable is a major new development since establishing the Charter for Protecting Minors and Young People in 2002, better known as the Dallas Charter.
Since 2002, this has been in place with regard to priests. And so in the wake of the McCarrick part of this scandal, we've now begun to address the bishop issue. So that's what's unique here.
Bishop Christopher Coyne of Burlington, Vermont, was once the spokesperson in the Archdiocese of Boston, where the abuse scandal broke in 2002. He says it's been a long 17-year process, but bishops are taking strides.
It's been very frustrating because there are things that we still need to deal with, but there's so much that we've already accomplished.
That includes establishing reporting lines in individual dioceses across the country. Now they'll do it on a national level.
For the most part, almost every diocese has brought into place protocols and procedures and guidelines to protect children. For the past 16, 17 years, we've seen an incredible drop in the amount of cases that have been reported.
And the third-party reporting system is expected to be up and running no later than May 30th, 2020. Emily?
Tim, the vote wasn't unanimous. Why didn't all the bishops back the proposal?
Well, the bishops I spoke with said that everyone favors the new system. However, some wanted to tweak the wording of the proposal that they voted on. Emily?
Thank you for that report, Tim. Outside the Baltimore hotel where the bishops are meeting, several abuse survivors gathered to lobby the clerics. A group of no more than 10 protesters stood in a largely silent demonstration yesterday. They want the bishops to have alleged abuse claims reported to law enforcement first. Becky Ianni is a director for the Survivors Network.
We want them to mandate that every church official must report directly to the police and then go to the church authorities.
The group also calling for all U.S. dioceses to report the names of accused clergy, claiming about 50 have not yet done so. Now back to Baltimore and national correspondent for the Tablet and Crux, Christopher White, who's standing by with more on the bishop's new reporting system. Christopher, how will this new system function?
Hi, Emily. Well, this system is going to basically function like a 1-800 hotline. You know, when these complaints come in, they will be accepted either electronically or by phone, and they will then be transferred over to the Metropolitan Archbishop, so the regional archbishop who is responsible for then investigating that case.
And how does this new system differ from the already established reporting lines that have been set up to take in allegations of clerical abuse?
Well, Emily, starting in 2002, after the bishops enacted the Dallas Charter, which is, the church's major guidelines for the protection of minor and young people, most young people, had a means of reporting abuse to a hotline against priests. This takes it one step further and nationalizes it for complaints against bishops themselves.
Now, all of today's activities are leading up to a big vote tomorrow. Does today give us any hints of what will likely happen tomorrow when the bishops conclude their meeting?
Yeah, these votes were passed by an overwhelming majority, and while bishops are interested in tweaking the language about these proposals, there is this sense of urgency that something has to be done. So I think while there'll be some debate over what sort of involvement lay people bring to the table in overseeing bishops, I think they're going to walk away from this meeting in Baltimore tomorrow with some firm action taken.
Thank you, Christopher. In connection with their Baltimore meeting, the U.S. bishops are launching a new website. It's at usccbprevention.org. The site is highlighting the importance of prevention, protection, and accountability in cases of clerical abuse. Readers can also view the 2002 Charter for the Protection of Children and Young Adults. The bishops in Baltimore wrap up their meeting tomorrow. The major topics on the agenda include votes on new protocols to govern themselves and changing the catechism to outlaw the death penalty. All of it will be covered live on Net TV beginning tomorrow morning at 8:45. Pope Francis is ordering a Vatican trial for a retired U.S. bishop accused of multiple acts of abuse. Bishop Joseph Hart once led the Diocese of Cheyenne, Wyoming. The 87-year-old has denied allegations against him made in both Cheyenne and Kansas City. Hart is also under criminal investigation by Wyoming prosecutors. The Holy Father is also speaking out very strongly this morning to condemn the destruction of sacred human life. Francis addressing thousands of pilgrims in St. Peter's Square for his general audience. Melissa Butts reports from the square.
Today, Pope Francis spoke in St. Peter's Square on abortion. He said that life must be defended and served from conception until natural death. During the general audience, the Pope harshly criticized abortion. He was speaking to Polish pilgrims who had just held the March for Life in their country on Sunday.
Tanti di voi e migliaia di vostri connazionali domenica scorsa hanno partecipato ai cortei per la vita, portando il messaggio che la vita è sacra perché è dono di Dio.
Pope Francis always shows this tenderness for the gift of life at the general audience. He greets everyone from the smallest in the crowds to those with disabilities.
Siamo chiamati a difenderla, servirla già dal concepimento nel grembo materno fino all'età avanzata, quando è segnata dall'infermità e dalla sofferenza. Non è lecito distruggere la vita, renderla oggetto di sperimentazione o false concezioni. Vi chiedo di pregare affinché sia sempre rispettata la vita umana, testimoniando così i valori evangelici, specialmente nell'ambito della famiglia.
He recently has spoken boldly about respecting life, including with Mexican Televisa journalist Valentina Alazraqui in a private interview. Additionally, last month he met with participants from 70 countries attending the anti-abortion Yes to Life conference held at the Vatican. The March for Life originated in the United States in 1973, and this is not the first time Pope Francis has applauded the participants. Who knows, next year maybe Pope Francis will send a special message to organizers in Washington, D.C. At the Vatican, Melissa Butts, Currents News.
Tonight, the U.S. bishops are applauding the latest action by the American Medical Association against physician-assisted suicide. The AMA voted overwhelmingly to oppose the deadly practice. The bishops are voicing their support. Archbishop Joseph Naumann heads up the USCCB's pro-life committee, and he's saying the practice and promotion of assisted suicide poses grave consequences for our entire society. The AMA was right to reaffirm its long-standing view that physician-assisted suicide is fundamentally incompatible with the physician's role as healer. A big story in New York tonight. The new Democratic leadership in Albany is making a deal on rent regulations. Tenant rights activists are claiming victory, but not everyone is happy about the proposed changes. Currents News' Michelle Powers has the details.
It's been a long, hard battle over rent reform. Just over a week ago, hundreds of activists protesting on the steps of the state capitol. Many of them arrested, but undeterred.
I think we need to start putting people first and not profits for a handful of landlords.
Now, Democratic leaders in Albany say they have a deal on a far-reaching set of provisions that will affect almost 2.5 million people in nearly 1 million rent-regulated apartments all across the city. The new protections limit rent increases, bar building owners from deregulating apartments, and close certain loopholes that lets them raise rents. The bill also makes many of the changes permanent and allows rent protections to expand statewide. Lawmakers are calling the agreement the strongest tenant protections in history. In a statement to Currents News, Brooklyn State Senator Zelnor Myrie writing, "This bill is the strongest package of tenant protections New York has seen since World War II. For decades, our communities have lost hundreds of thousands of rent-regulated units. But with this legislation, we are putting power back in the hands of tenants." But real estate trade groups fear the changes could put smaller landlords out of business and lead to deteriorating housing conditions, saying, "This legislation fails to address the city's housing crisis and will lead to disinvestment in the city's private sector rental stock." Tenant activists insist the new legislation will impact the lives of millions of renters while keeping the real estate industry in check. Both chambers of the legislature are expecting to vote on the package sometime this week before the current regulations are set to expire. Governor Cuomo says he will sign the bill. Michelle Powers, Currents News.
President Trump meeting with Polish President Andrzej Duda at the White House this afternoon as news breaks that the United States is planning to send another 1,000 American troops to Poland. For months, Polish leaders had been lobbying for a new American base in their country. Poland's leadership is increasingly worried about Russian military activity near its borders. Violence on the streets of Hong Kong this morning as protesters and heavily armed police had a huge clash. Tens of thousands of people are opposing a proposed treaty that would allow China to extradite people in Hong Kong back to the mainland. The Diocese of Hong Kong is urging a delay in voting on the proposal while calling for calm in the streets. There's a lot more news headed your way. Cages are popping up around the city and stopping New Yorkers in their tracks.
They did their jobs. Do yours!
An emotional Jon Stewart blasting Congress for failing to help the heroes of 9/11. Now the politicians are finally acting. The Justice Department is siding with religious school parents. It's a battle over tuition. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. New Yorkers are stopping in their tracks as dozens of new art installations are popping up around the city. They are depicting kids in cages wrapped in tinfoil blankets and laying on the ground. The organizers of the campaign are trying to draw attention to the crisis at the southern border, where a flood of migrants trying to get into the U.S. has overwhelmed border protection facilities. The kids in cages are moving some people to tears.
Heart-stopping almost, walking off the train with a bunch of kids and seeing this, and it's very powerful and important.
And makes me realize that like a lot of us are just being like deaf to the issues and then blind to the issues that are in the world and not seeking them out just because they make us uncomfortable. But I think that really what this shows us is that we need to be confronted with the things that are going on in this world.
The kids in cages began popping up around town early this morning. The 24 installations are located in high traffic areas and outside media outlets. Nearly 2 decades after September 11, 2001, Congress has finally taken the steps to remedy its slow-motion response to funding compensation for survivors and first responders. The lawmakers passing a bill out of committee that would support those who've given so much of their life on the war on terror.
The ayes have it, and the bill is ordered reported favorably to the House.
The unanimous vote brings the 9/11 Compensation Fund one step closer to becoming permanent.
Every sick responder and survivor should be treated with the same dignity and compassion. And all responders and survivors, whether they got sick in 2015 or will get sick in 2025 or 2035, should be properly compensated.
The health care program that now exists for first responders and other 9/11 victims is running out of money. Today's vote is the first step towards finally fixing the problem permanently. John Veal is advocating for all those who responded to the terrorism on 9/11.
Over 95,000 people on the World Trade Center health program that are being treated across our great nation are being forgotten by our federal government, by Congress, a dysfunctional body of work who continues to fail us. You know, we have battled these people now for over 15 years.
Today's committee vote comes after Jon Stewart addressed the House yesterday in an emotional plea for help.
They responded in 5 seconds. They did their jobs with courage, grace, tenacity, humility. 18 years later, do yours.
Stewart blasting committee members who skipped the hearing and the opportunity to listen to those who risked their lives on 9/11. Since that horrible day, many have developed a slew of illnesses. Brian McGuire is one of them.
Just last week alone, we had a rough week of 9/11 first responders. We had 7 first responders and recovery workers die due to 9/11 cancer. We are here trying to help those families to bring some closure.
Since the 2001 attack, about 10,000 first responders and victims have been diagnosed with cancer, and at least 2,000 people have died from a 9/11 related disease. And the risk of some cancers among first responders is 30% higher than the general population. Future outlooks are also grim. One New York health expert is saying that what we've seen to date is the tip of the iceberg, with only about 15% of the cancer cases having been diagnosed so far. Many are fighting for the first responders who need support. One of the best known groups is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation, headed up by Frank Siller. He joins us now. Frank, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Emily.
So, Frank, the House Judiciary Committee has approved new money for the 9/11 Compensation Fund. Is the federal government doing enough?
No, but hopefully they will do it. They'll step up. After listening to Jon Stewart yesterday, it was so good to see him fight for, most certainly for our first responders. So many of them who put their lives on the line on 9/11. Right, ran to the buildings while saving people while everybody else was running away. But then afterwards, the recovery effort there was unbelievable. I myself was at the pile a few times, digging, looking for my brother. And so many of these guys were there 12, 16, 18 hours a day, you know, trying to find all the brothers that they lost, firefighters and police officers. And then, you know, we have to make sure we take care of them. Remember, they were told the air was clean.
So what's next in the battle over this fund?
Well, the next thing is that it's going to go, you know, to the full floor. I believe it should pass unanimously, but you never know. Some people have their own thoughts on it, but I really do believe it'll pass. I'd like to see it funded until this generation that was down there are no longer around.
So let's switch gears a little bit. Now talk to me a little bit about your foundation, Tunnel to Towers.
Well, our foundation was started from the heroic act of my brother Stephen, a New York City firefighter, and what he did on September 11, 2001. He was actually on his way home to play golf with myself, my brother George, my brother Russ, when he heard on his radio scanner that the towers were hit. And he turned his truck around, went back to his firehouse, Park Slope, certainly not far from where we are right here today, Squad 1, and got his gear, drove to the mouth of the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel where it was closed for security reasons. So what did he do? What firefighters do, what police officers do, what our military do. They run towards it. He strapped 60 pounds of gear on his back, ran through that tunnel, which is nearly 2 miles long. And gave up his life while saving others. We were so moved as a family, we wanted to do something, so we started the foundation. I'll tell you what we've been doing ever since. We're building smart homes for our country's most catastrophically injured service members. We take care of the fallen first responders who die in the line of duty that have young kids. All over the country, just not here in New York. This is all over the United States. I travel all over, meet these greatest of all families.
So now, I mean, just incredible things that you guys are doing. How can people that are watching get involved with your foundation?
The simplest way, and the way that we need to be successful, we want to join our campaign. We have $11 a month campaign. Most people can afford $11 a month, right, Emily? I mean, sacrifice a couple cups of coffee a month, and that $11, if I had a million people sign up for this $11 a month campaign, I could take care of every cop, every firefighter who died anywhere in the United States, or died in the line of duty, that have young kids. So $11 a month, go to tunneltotowers.org. Remember, my brother ran through the tunnel to the towers. So tunneltotowers.org, and join us on $11 a month campaign.
Frank, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for all that you do.
Well, thank you for having me here today. God bless.
The Department of Justice is throwing its support behind a group of parents who have filed a federal lawsuit seeking reimbursement for their children's religious school tuition. The case is out of Portland, Maine. The court sided strongly with the parents, citing religious freedom. Oral arguments in the lawsuit will take place in 2 weeks. Still to come on Currents News, the first black priest in the United States is on the brink of making history again, just steps away from sainthood. And a nun with a batting average to rival Ruth, how to get her autograph and her bobblehead. And the tablet has a brand new page called Our Diocesan Family, where you can share your pictures of recent baptisms, Holy Communions, confirmations, marriage, all of the joyous sacraments. For more details and to submit your photos, go to thetablet.org/ourdiocesanfamily. Your picture may be published in an upcoming issue of the newspaper. We'll be right back. The first black priest in the United States is one step closer to becoming America's first black saint. Pope Francis advanced the sainthood cause of Father Augustus Tolton today. Tolton was born a slave in Missouri but escaped with his family during the Civil War. If a miracle can be attributed to Father Tolton's intercession, he would then be declared blessed by the Pope, and another miracle would lead him to sainthood. Officials in Rome are currently reviewing at least one potential miracle. Finally tonight, a special announcement from a Brooklyn King.
Hey, Brooklyn Cyclone fans, this is King Henry from the Brooklyn Cyclones, and I'm here to tell you about Catholic Schools Night at MCU Park on Monday, June 17th.
That's when the Scholars will take on the Callers in a baseball game. The June 17th game starts at 5:45 at MCU Park, though officials are telling fans to arrive early. For tickets, which cost $10, go to fivo.me/Catholic Schools Night, or you can purchase a commemorative bobblehead of last year's MVP, Sister Shirley Tremont, with your ticket for $12. That link is fivo.me/Shirley Bobblehead. That is Currents News. I'm Emily Drewby. Thank you for joining us, because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.